Hello, ladies and gentlemen, listen carefully. Let me tell you something that most people will never have the courage to say out loud. Being too nice can be dangerous. Yes, you heard me right. Dangerous. I've learned this the hard way, not just in films, not just in fame, but in life. Being nice is beautiful. Being kind is noble. But being too nice, that's when the world starts to misunderstand your silence as weakness, your compassion as naivety, and your loyalty as something they're entitled to. You think you're being generous, you think you're showing love, but often what you're really doing is teaching people how to treat you poorly, without them even realizing it, and without you knowing how to stop it. You see, when you keep saying yes to things that hurt you just to avoid hurting others, when you go out of your way to be available for people who wouldn't walk a single step for you, when you let people speak over you, disrespect you, and still smile like nothing happened, you're not being a good person. You're being a person who forgot their own worth. Life doesn't reward people for how much they bend. It rewards people who know when to stand tall. The truth is, no matter how good you are, there will always be people who will try to take advantage of that goodness. And if you don't set limits, if you don't protect your space, they will drain you, use you, and then blame you for being empty. Don't confuse being loved with being used. Don't confuse acceptance with approval. The moment you start prioritizing everyone else over yourself, you start disappearing slowly, quietly. And what's worse is that no one notices because they've become so used to you giving everything without asking for anything. I've played many roles in my life. Kings, lovers, underdogs, dreamers. But the hardest role is being yourself in a world that constantly wants to define you. And being yourself means knowing where to draw the line. Being yourself means knowing when to say enough. Not because you're arrogant, but because you finally realized your energy is priceless. People always say, Shah Rukh, you're so humble. You treat everyone with respect. And I do. I believe in dignity. But I've also learned when to walk away. I've learned that not every smile deserves a smile back. Not every call deserves a return. Not every door should be opened again, especially the ones that lead you back to pain. And I'll tell you this, the moment you stop being too friendly, too available, too accommodating, people will notice. Some will be confused, some will be angry. They'll say, you've changed, and they're right, you've evolved. You've grown tired of sacrificing your peace for temporary approval. You've grown tired of being everyone's solution while silently suffering yourself. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is pull back, not in bitterness, not in revenge, but in self-respect, in silence. Let them wonder why you stopped texting, why you stopped showing up, why you stopped trying so hard. Let them feel the absence of your effort, because only then will they recognize the weight of your presence. You don't owe anyone an explanation for putting yourself first. That's not selfishness. That's survival. That's strength. That's you finally realizing that you can be kind and still have boundaries. You can love deeply and still walk away when that love is no longer respected. You can be warm and still protect your fire from those who only come close to benefit from your light. People often confuse loudness with power. But I believe real power is quiet. Real power is choosing dignity over drama. It's choosing peace over proving your point. It's sitting at a table alone rather than being surrounded by people who make you feel alone. It's walking away without burning bridges, but also without looking back. We live in a time where being nice is marketed as a weakness. But the truth is, it's not your niceness that's the problem. It's the lack of boundaries around it. It's the way you've been taught to prioritize everyone else's emotions over your own. And that stops today. That stops the moment you decide you're enough, just as you are. Even if you say no, even if you don't show up, even if you choose yourself. The most dangerous thing about being too nice is that you start believing you have to be. That if you say no, they'll leave. If you don't agree, they won't like you. But I promise you this, the right people won't leave because you stood your ground. They won't disappear because you had standards. The ones who vanish when you stop being too friendly, they were never for you in the first place. They were only there for what you gave, not for who you are. So be good, be kind. Be generous, but never let anyone confuse your goodness with permission to be walked over. You are not a convenience, you are not a backup plan. You are not someone's emotional garbage bin. You are you. And that's not just enough, it's everything. I say this not just as someone who's lived many lives on screen, but someone who's fought battles behind the scenes. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this: respect is earned, not given. And if people don't give it to you, give it to yourself. Every single day, stand tall, even when it shakes. Speak your truth, even when your voice trembles. Love deeply. But never forget to love yourself first. Because the world will take as much as you allow it to. And if you don't set the price of your value, someone else will always try to discount it. So stop being too friendly. Start being real, start being powerful, start being you. Let me tell you something I wish someone had told me when I was younger. Kindness, real kindness, is not about letting the world walk all over you. It's not about keeping quiet when you're disrespected. It's not about constantly giving, forgiving, bending, breaking and sacrificing your own peace just to keep others comfortable. That's not kindness. That's self-abandonment. I've lived long enough to understand this. You can be kind and still be powerful. You can be compassionate and still command respect. You can have a good heart and still refuse to be a doormat. Because a kind person without boundaries is not generous. They're exhausted, they're drained, they're forgotten. And I've been there. I know what it feels like to be the one who always shows up, the one who answers every call, who says yes even when your heart is screaming no, who gives people more chances than they deserve, not because you're weak, but because you care, you love deeply, you see the best in people. But let me tell you something, even kindness needs discipline. Even love needs limits. People will take and take and take. That's just how it goes. Not because they're evil, but because they've learned you'll always be there, that you'll always forgive, that you'll always explain away their behavior because you have a soft heart. But your heart is not a punching bag. Your soul is not a garbage bin for other people's mess. You have a right, a responsibility to protect your space, your sanity, your self-respect. Being kind doesn't mean you keep quiet when someone crosses the line. It doesn't mean you smile through the pain. It doesn't mean you carry other people's burdens while yours go unnoticed. True kindness starts with you, with how you treat yourself, with how you honor your own needs, your own feelings, your own truth. Because when you constantly put yourself last, don't be surprised when others do the same. You teach people how to treat you, not through your words, but through your actions. If you accept disrespect, if you allow inconsistency, if you reward bad behavior with your loyalty, you're sending a message that your kindness comes without standards. And the world doesn't respect that. The world doesn't value what comes too easy. The world respects what you protect, what you don't allow, what you refuse to tolerate. You can be kind and still say no. You can be kind and still walk away. You can be kind and still demand respect. You don't have to yell. You don't have to prove anything. You just have to stop betraying yourself to keep the peace. Peace that costs your dignity is not peace, it's submission. And submission is not love, it's fear. I know what it's like to love people who don't love you back the way you deserve, to keep giving in hopes that one day they'll see your value. But the truth is, when you respect yourself, you don't wait for someone else to do it for you. You show them through the standards you uphold, through the boundaries you set, through the strength in your silence when you decide enough is enough. Kindness isn't weakness, it's power under control. It's love with wisdom. It's heart with spine. It's being able to forgive without forgetting who you are. It's being able to care without collapsing. It's being able to say, I love you, but I love myself too, and I won't let you keep hurting me. There's a kind of dignity in restraint, a kind of strength in refusing to stoop down, even when others provoke you. But that doesn't mean you stay in places where you're disrespected. That doesn't mean you let people cross your lines just because you don't want to upset them. You don't owe anyone access to your soul if they don't know how to handle it with care. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to say, no more. No more explaining, no more chasing, no more bending, because you've realized your kindness is not supposed to cost you your voice, your peace, your identity. If someone can't handle your truth, your growth, your strength, they're not rejecting you. They're making space for you to choose better. And that's the gift in all of this. When you stop letting kindness be an excuse for self-neglect, you begin to attract people who appreciate you without taking advantage of you. People who don't just want what you give, but who value who you are. People who don't test your limits, but honor them. People who don't confuse your softness for permission to harm you. You deserve that. You deserve spaces where you don't have to fight to be seen, where your love isn't a transaction, where your kindness isn't exploited. But before you find those spaces, you have to become one for yourself. You have to stop seeking validation from those who don't even value themselves. You have to stop pouring into empty hands hoping they'll one day give back. So be kind, but be kind with fire. Be kind with clarity. Be kind with standards. Let your love be deep, but let your boundaries be deeper. Because the world doesn't just need more kindness, it needs powerful kindness. It needs people who can say, I care about you, but I won't abandon me in the process. Let your kindness roar. let it shine, but never let it make you small. Because you're not here to be stepped on, you're here to rise with grace, with strength, with an unshakable sense of self. The world will try to confuse your goodness with gullibility. Don't let it. Show them, through your actions, through your presence, through your boundaries, that kindness isn't a weakness. It's the strongest force on this planet when rooted in self-respect. Let me tell you something straight from the heart, not as a superstar, not as someone standing on a stage with spotlights and applause, but as a man who has lived long enough to understand the world behind the curtains. This world, my friend, it doesn't always reward you for being the nicest. It doesn't always respect the person who bends, adjusts, and gives without limit. No, this world respects strength, inner strength. The kind of strength that doesn't always smile. The kind that doesn't always say yes. The kind that knows when to stay silent and when to walk away. I've seen people confuse being friendly with being respectable. They think if they're nice enough, agreeable enough, soft enough, the world will love them, honor them, never hurt them. But the reality is, the more you try to please everyone, the less they remember your name. The more you shrink to make others comfortable, the more invisible you become. And the more you chase being liked, the more you lose the one thing that makes people listen. Your power. I know this might sound strange coming from me, someone whose job is built around smiles, admiration, charisma. But I'll let you in on a truth I've learned along the way. You don't become unforgettable by being everyone's favorite. You become unforgettable by standing for something, by having a presence that commands respect, not just affection. People don't follow the friendliest leader. They follow the strongest one, the one who knows who they are, the one who doesn't flinch under pressure, the one who can say no with grace and yes with conviction. You don't need to be cold. You don't need to be cruel. But you do need to stop trying to be everything to everyone. Because the more you do that, the more you dilute your own voice. And in this world, your voice is your signature. It's your currency. And if you keep giving it away for free, don't be surprised when no one values it. Strength is not in how loud you speak. It's in how clear your boundaries are. It's not in how much you smile. It's in how little you tolerate disrespect. Real strength is quiet. It doesn't need approval. It doesn't seek applause. It's rooted in certainty, in knowing who you are, what you stand for, and what you will never allow. I've met thousands of people over the years. I've shaken hands with kings and dreamers, with critics and fans, and I've realized people are something people always test your limits. They push a little, then a little more. And the moment you fail to say, that's enough, you lose a part of yourself. That's why it's not just okay, it's necessary to choose respect over being liked. Because once people know you have standards, that you value yourself, they start to value you too. Don't let the fear of being misunderstood stop you from being powerful. Don't let the fear of being disliked stop you from being firm. You have every right to protect your energy, your peace, your time. You have every right to expect loyalty in return for loyalty, effort in return for effort, respect in return for presence. Stop settling for one-sided connections. Stop being the one who always reaches out, always compromises, always forgives, while the world just takes and takes. It's not pride, it's principle. You don't owe anyone your light if they can't handle your fire. You don't have to be rude, you don't have to be arrogant, but you do have to stop being so eager to prove that you're kind. Kindness doesn't need validation. Real kindness has edges. It knows when to stop. It knows when to say, I love you, but I won't let you disrespect me. It knows how to balance heart with spine. The world often misinterprets friendliness as weakness. If you're always available, always agreeable, always apologizing, people start assuming that you don't have standards. They start thinking you're someone they can ignore today and call tomorrow. Someone they can mock in private and praise in public. Someone who will always be there no matter how they treat you. And that is the most dangerous place to live, in the space where you are seen as convenient instead of respected. So take a stand, not against others, but for yourself. Speak less, say more. Don't be afraid to be misunderstood for a little while if it means you're finally being true to yourself. Stop smiling at everyone just to keep the peace. Peace isn't real if it's built on your silence. Learn to be firm without being harsh. Learn to be grounded without being bitter. And learn to walk away from any space that tries to shrink you. You were not made to be small. You were not born to be everyone's cushion. You have fire in your voice, purpose in your presence. Don't waste it trying to make everyone comfortable. The right people won't feel threatened by your strength. They'll admire it. They'll rise to meet it. And those who walk away when you stop being overly friendly, let them go. They were never here for your truth. They were only here for your convenience. I say this with love. The most powerful thing you can do in this life is be unapologetically yourself, strong, clear, kind, but unshakable. Stop handing out pieces of your soul just to be liked. You don't need to earn your place. You are already enough. Not because of how sweet you are, but because of how real you are. And the world may not always clap for it, but it will always respect it. You know, there's something I've learned after all these years, something they don't teach you in school, something even life takes a while to whisper in your ear. Being too friendly, too available, too generous with your time and energy, it doesn't always build better relationships. Sometimes it breaks you in ways you don't even see coming. Because the more friendly you become, the more you give without balance, the easier it is for people to take you for granted. And that's the hard truth. Friendliness, when not paired with awareness and boundaries, doesn't always create deeper connection. It often creates imbalance. It creates relationships where you're giving 80 while the other person is barely giving 20. It creates moments where you're showing up fully while they're giving you fractions. It puts you in a space where you're carrying the weight of the bond, hoping they'll one day match your energy. But let me tell you, if someone truly values you, you won't have to keep proving your worth. You won't have to bend over backwards just to be seen, heard, or appreciated. I've been that person, the one who gives too much, smiles through discomfort, tries to keep everyone happy, even when I'm breaking inside. But here's what I realized: when you keep pouring into people who never pour back, you eventually run dry, you feel hollow, you begin to question your own value, and the saddest part is, you start thinking maybe this is what love or friendship is supposed to feel like. But it's not. Friendliness should be a bridge, not a leash. It should open doors, not chain you to people who only take. It should invite respect, not demand your silence. But too often, we confuse friendliness with sacrifice. We think if we're just nice enough, patient enough, giving enough, people will treat us right. We think our kindness will teach them to reciprocate. But here's what I've learned: your effort will never teach someone to care who doesn't already want to. And that's when the imbalance begins. When you keep being available at 2 a.m., but they vanish at 2 p.m., when you remember every little detail about their life, but they can't even recall your birthday. When you constantly check in, follow up, reach out, but if you stop, there's silence. That's not connection, that's dependency. That's imbalance. That's you holding up a relationship that should have been built by two. It's not your job to fix one-sided bonds. It's not your duty to keep giving while someone else keeps taking. A relationship, whether it's love, friendship, or even family, isn't a charity. It's a choice. A conscious decision to be present, to invest, to grow together. And if you're the only one choosing it, then maybe it's time to choose yourself. I'm not telling you to stop being friendly. No, I'm telling you to start being selective. Don't water every plant hoping it'll bloom. Some people are just not ready to grow. Some only want your light so they don't have to face their own darkness. Some only want your energy to escape their own emptiness. And you deserve more than that. You deserve balance. You deserve effort in return. You deserve to feel what it's like when someone else shows up without being asked. When someone else values your presence without you having to prove it. And sometimes the hardest thing to do is pull back. To stop over-explaining. To stop over-giving. To stop being the emotional safety net for people who wouldn't catch you if you fell. But pulling back isn't cruelty. It's clarity. It's you realizing that your time is precious, your energy is sacred, and your love is not a free service. You can still be warm and guarded. You can still be open-hearted and self-respecting. You can still greet the world with a smile without letting everyone walk through your soul. That's the balance. That's where true strength lies. In knowing when to lean in and when to step back. In knowing when to keep fighting and when to let go. In knowing that being too friendly in a world that doesn't always care can leave you burned. So check your circle. Look around. Who claps when you win without needing anything in return? Who shows up for you without a reminder, without a guilt trip, without strings attached? That's who you pour into. That's who deserves your late nights, your early mornings, your loyalty. Not those who treat your kindness like a convenience. Not those who only remember you when they need something. Not those who disappear the moment you ask for a little in return. You are not hard to love. You are not asking for too much. You're just asking the wrong people. The moment you shift your energy away from proving your worth and toward protecting your peace, everything changes. You stop chasing. You start choosing. You stop bleeding for people who wouldn't give you a bandage, and you start recognizing your own power. Because the most dangerous thing about unbalanced relationships is they slowly convince you that imbalance is normal. That effort without reciprocity is loyalty. That being walked over is humility. that sacrificing your needs is love. But it's not. And you don't owe anyone a version of yourself that's constantly tired, depleted, and stretched thin just to maintain connection. Let them call you distant. Let them say you've changed. Let them wonder why you're not so available anymore. They were never there for you. They were there for your energy, your kindness, your giving spirit. But now that you've decided to give all that back to yourself, suddenly you're the villain, and that's okay. Be the villain in their story if it means you're finally the hero in your own. There is nothing wrong with being friendly. But your friendliness should never come at the cost of your emotional health. Be friendly, be kind. But above all, be aware, because love doesn't drain you. Friendship doesn't exhaust you. And kindness should never leave you feeling empty. You want people to respect you. Then stop trying to please them. Stop dancing around their opinions, their moods, their judgments just to be accepted. Because let me tell you something most people will never say out loud. Respect is not earned by being agreeable. It's not earned by saying yes all the time. It's not earned by making yourself smaller just to fit into other people's comfort zones. Real respect comes when you stand firm, when you draw lines, when you decide you'd rather be disliked for your truth than loved for a lie. I've been in rooms where everyone smiled to my face but doubted me behind my back. I've seen how quickly admiration fades when you stop playing by someone else's script. And I've learned something powerful. If your respect is based on how well you perform for others, then it's not respect. It's conditional approval. And conditional approval is like walking on a tightrope. One misstep and everything crumbles. That's not how I want to live. That's not how anyone should live. There comes a time when you have to ask yourself, who are you doing this for? Why are you holding back your truth? Why are you afraid of confrontation, of judgment, of standing out? Is it because you think they'll like you more if you're quiet, polite, always agreeable? Is it because somewhere inside you've convinced yourself that love must be earned by sacrifice, that your voice must be muted so others can feel loud, that your presence must be softened so others don't feel threatened? But respect, my friend, is not born from silence. It's born from clarity, from courage, from the fire in your soul that says, this is who I am, and I don't need your permission to be it. There are people in this world who will only like you when you're convenient, when you're easy, when you're constantly available. The moment you say no, the moment you demand better, the moment you stop entertaining disrespect, watch how they change. Watch how the warmth turns cold. That's your clarity. That's the moment you stop begging for seats at tables that were never built for you. Pleasing everyone is a game you can never win because the rules keep changing. One day they want you loud, the next day too loud. One day you're not doing enough. The next day you're doing too much. And in trying to meet everyone's expectations, you forget your own identity. You become a reflection of their desires, not a reflection of your soul. And for what? Temporary praise, shallow approval, the illusion of being accepted. No, that's not respect, that's performance. And you're not here to perform, you're here to live, to be bold, to be wild, to be unapologetically yourself. You know what's really powerful? Saying no and not feeling guilty about it, speaking your mind and not flinching, walking away from fake friends, toxic relatives, manipulative relationships, and doing it without explaining yourself. That's power. That's when people stop looking at you like you're someone they can mold and start seeing you as someone they cannot control. And control, my friend, is what many confuse for connection. I've had to look people in the eye and say, you don't get to treat me like that. And yes, some of them left. Some of them hated me for it. But the ones who stayed, those are the ones who respect me. Because they saw a man who values himself. And when you value yourself truly, deeply, fiercely, you teach the world how to value you too. Let me tell you a secret. Not everyone is meant to like you. Not everyone is meant to understand your journey, your decisions, your fire. And that's okay. You're not here to be understood by everyone. You're here to walk your path, even if it's lonely sometimes. You're here to live with integrity, not popularity. I don't want respect built on compliance. I want respect built on character. And character isn't always agreeable. It's not always soft. Sometimes it says, no, I'm not okay with that. Sometimes it walks away from what others chase. Sometimes it chooses peace over attention, dignity over drama, truth over popularity. You want real respect? Start showing people that your worth isn't tied to their opinion, that you don't need their applause to feel valuable, that you don't need to fit into their boxes to feel complete. The moment you stop performing for approval is the moment you begin living with power. And it's not about arrogance. No, don't get it wrong. It's not about thinking you're better than anyone. It's about knowing you're not less than anyone either. It's about standing up for yourself when your knees are shaking. It's about saying, I matter, even when the world is too loud to hear it. So stop shrinking. Stop smiling when you want to scream. Stop nodding when your heart is saying no. You don't owe the world a watered down version of yourself. You don't owe anyone your silence in exchange for belonging. You owe yourself your truth, your full truth. The kind that stands tall in a room full of whispers. The kind that doesn't need permission to speak. The kind that walks with power even when it walks alone. Because in the end, real respect doesn't come from how many people like you. It comes from how many people know they cannot break you. There comes a point in life when you realize the most valuable thing you have isn't money. It's not fame. It's not attention or applause. It's your energy. Your energy is your power. It's what drives your dreams, your focus, your passion, your clarity. And if you keep giving it away to every person who expects you to please them, explain yourself or fix their mess, you'll wake up one day completely drained and you won't even know who you are anymore. I've been that person. I've been the man who tried to please everyone, friends, family, colleagues, strangers. I tried to be available, agreeable, reliable, lovable. And you know what I got in return? Burnout, confusion, emptiness. Because when your energy becomes everyone's playground, you lose yourself in the noise. You start living for others' comfort while your soul starves for peace. And let me tell you something with absolute clarity. That is not strength. That is not kindness. That is self-neglect dressed up as generosity. We are taught from a young age that being liked is important. We're trained to smile when we're hurting, to say yes when we mean no, to agree when we're screaming inside. But at what cost? You think being the one who never says no will make you more loved. You think constantly showing up for people who wouldn't cross the street for you is noble. It's not. It's how you burn your fire out. It's how you hand over your peace for temporary validation. I had to learn this the hard way. Protecting your energy will cost you people. It will cost you opportunities that were never meant for you anyway. It will cost you relationships built on your compliance. But it will give you something far greater. It will give you yourself back. It will give you your power, your clarity, your self-respect. People will call you selfish when you stop overgiving. Let them. People will say you've changed when you stop being available on their terms. Let them. Because anyone who benefits from your lack of boundaries will resent the moment you set them. That's not love. That's dependency. That's exploitation disguised as friendship, as family, as loyalty. And you deserve more than that. You deserve peace. Every time you say yes to something that drains you, you're saying no to something that could fulfill you. Every time you bend your spirit just to make someone else comfortable, you're teaching the world that your limits don't matter. But they do. Your energy matters. It's sacred. It fuels your dreams. It's what lets you create love, lead, and rise. So protect it like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. I've reached a place where I no longer apologize for putting myself first. That's not arrogance, it's survival. Because I can't pour from an empty cup. I can't inspire, lead, or love others if I'm depleted, and neither can you. Don't let the fear of being misunderstood keep you chained to people who only love the version of you that's always tired, always pleasing, always available. You don't have to show up for every argument, every event, every expectation. You don't have to explain your boundaries to people who were never planning to honor them. Sometimes silence is your answer. Distance is your protection, and self-respect is your shield. The people who truly value you won't punish you for choosing rest. They won't make you feel guilty for taking space. They won't withdraw love when you stop overextending. In fact, they'll respect you more. They'll admire the way you guard your peace because they've done the work themselves. They understand. They've felt the burnout. They've survived the betrayal that comes from pleasing the wrong people. You are not responsible for how others feel about your truth. You are not responsible for carrying their emotional baggage while neglecting your own. You are not responsible for saving people who are committed to drowning. Your responsibility is you, your healing, your growth, your energy. We live in a world that glorifies hustle, sacrifice, and endless giving. But what about stillness? What about intuition? What about saying, this doesn't feel right for me, and that's enough? You don't owe anyone a version of you that's constantly breaking just to be seen as loyal or loving. Loyalty that demands your silence is manipulation. Love that drains you is not love. Support that only flows one way is not a bond, it's a transaction. And you're not a product, you're a person. You have limits, you have needs. And those needs are not a weakness, they are the map to your peace. So choose wisely, guard your mornings. Don't let the wrong people into your sacred space. Protect your evenings. Don't waste your time explaining your heart to those who've already decided not to listen. Protect your mental space. Don't let drama park itself in your mind and start collecting rent. There's a quiet power in people who've stopped explaining themselves. A calm strength in those who walk away instead of staying to argue. A deep wisdom in those who choose peace over performance. Be that person. Be the one who knows that protecting your energy is the highest form of self-respect. If they call you cold for it, so be it. If they say you're distant, let them talk. They don't know what it cost you to get here. They don't know the battles you fought to reclaim your soul. They don't know how hard it was to stop bleeding for people who wouldn't offer you a bandage. This world doesn't need more people pleasers. It needs more people who are whole, grounded, centered. People who protect their energy so they can show up for the right causes, the right people, the right dreams. You are allowed to choose peace. You are allowed to sit in stillness. You are allowed to protect your heart even if others call it selfish. Because the most selfless thing you can do sometimes is to finally take care of yourself.